The fluorescent lights above me buzzed like angry wasps, their harsh white glow making my eyes water. Or maybe that was just the tears I'd been holding back for the past 14 hours. The vinyl chair beneath me creaked as I shifted, trying to find a position that didn't make my swollen ankles scream in protest. The waiting room of St. Michael's Hospital smelled of antiseptic and desperation, a combination I'd grown intimately familiar with over the past 9 months. I pressed my palm against my belly, feeling the tight rhythmic contractions that had brought me here at 3 a.m. Alone. Always alone now. The divorce papers had been finalized 6 months ago. 6 months since Marcus had looked at me with those cold, distant eyes and told me he couldn't do this anymore. He'd left before I could tell him about the baby. By the time I'd worked up the courage to call, his number was disconnected, his apartment cleared out, and his social media accounts deleted. It was as if he'd erased me, erased us, from his entire existence. Mrs. Chen? A nurse with kind eyes and exhaustion written across her face appeared in the doorway. "We're ready for you now. It's Ms. Rivera," I corrected softly, hauling myself to my feet. The name felt foreign on my tongue now. This reclaimed identity I'd gone back to after the divorce. Sarah Rivera. Not Sarah Chen. Not Mrs. Anybody. The contraction hit me like a freight train halfway down the corridor, and I gripped the wall, breathing through the pain the way the YouTube videos had taught me. The nurse waited patiently, her hand on my elbow, steadying me. "First baby?" she asked. Yes, the word came out as barely a whisper. The delivery room was too bright, too cold, too real. They got me into the hospital gown, a humiliating paper-thin thing that tied in the back, and hooked me up to monitors that beeped steadily, tracking my baby's heartbeat. Our baby. Mine and Marcus's, except he'd never know, never care, never show up to hold this tiny life we'd created together. "Is someone coming?" the nurse asked, glancing at the empty chair beside my bed. "Family? The father?" I shook my head, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The hours blurred together after that. Pain and pressure and doctors murmuring to each other in medical jargon I couldn't parse through the haze. I gripped the bed rails until my knuckles turned white, screaming into the void of that sterile room, wishing I had someone, anyone, to hold my hand through this. And then, after what felt like an eternity of agony, I heard it. A cry. High-pitched and furious and absolutely perfect. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, holding up this tiny, writhing creature covered in vernix and blood. A beautiful, healthy girl. They placed her on my chest, and the world stopped. Everything stopped. The pain, the loneliness, the fear. It all melted away as I looked down at her scrunched-up face, her tiny fists waving in the air, her dark eyes that would eventually focus on mine. She was perfect. Absolutely, impossibly perfect. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I'm your mama. It's just you and me now, okay? Just you and me." But I was wrong. So devastatingly, terrifyingly wrong. The knock on my recovery room door came 4 hours later, just as I'd finally gotten my daughter. Lily, I'd decided to name her, latched in nursing. I looked up, expecting another nurse with more forms to sign or medications to take. Instead, Marcus stood in the doorway. He looked the same. Dark hair styled perfectly. Designer clothes that cost more than my monthly rent. That same sharp jawline I'd once traced with my fingers in the darkness of our bedroom. But his eyes were different now, harder, colder. There was something almost predatory in the way he looked at me, holding our newborn daughter. "Sarah." My name sounded like an accusation in his mouth. "How did you—" I clutched Lily closer to my chest, suddenly feeling exposed in my hospital gown, my hair matted with sweat, my body still aching from labor. "How did you know I was here?" He stepped into the room, and I noticed he wasn't alone. A woman followed him, tall, blonde, wearing stilettos that clicked against the linoleum floor like a countdown to something terrible. She looked at me with barely concealed disgust, her nose wrinkling as if I smelled bad. "I have my ways," Marcus said, his voice smooth and controlled, always so controlled. "Did you really think you could hide this from me?" "Hide it?" The words came out as a bitter laugh. "You left, Marcus. You disappeared. I tried to—" That's mine." He gestured to Lily, and something in his tone made my blood run cold. Not love. Not wonder at seeing his daughter for the first time. Just ownership. "That's my daughter. She's not a possession," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "And you gave up any right to her when you left." The blonde woman, his girlfriend, new wife, leaned in and whispered something in his ear. Marcus's expression shifted, something almost like satisfaction crossing his face. "Actually, Sarah, I didn't give up anything. We were still married when she was conceived. That means I have parental rights, equal custody at minimum." He pulled out his phone, tapping on the screen. "I've already spoken to my lawyer." The words hit me like a physical blow. Custody. He wanted custody. He'd abandoned me, ghosted me completely, and now he wanted to take my baby girl away. "You can't," I started, but the door burst open again. This time a doctor entered. Not the one who delivered Lily, but an older man with silver hair and a clipboard tucked under his arm. Dr. Patterson, according to his name tag. He looked between Marcus and me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Ms. Rivera, I apologize for the intrusion, but we need to discuss something rather urgent." His eyes flicked to Marcus, privately, if possible. "Anything you need to say to her, you can say in front of me," Marcus interjected, stepping closer to my bed. "I'm the father." Dr. Patterson's eyebrows rose slightly. "Are you? That's interesting, because the genetic screening we run on all newborns flagged something unusual. We ran additional tests to confirm, and..." He opened his clipboard, scanning the document. "Mr. Chen, you are definitively not the biological father of this child." The room went silent. I stared at the doctor, my brain refusing to process what he'd just said. Not the father? That was impossible. Marcus was the only man I'd ever been with. The only one. There had never been anyone else. "What?" The word came out as a whisper, barely audible over the pounding of my heart. Marcus's face had gone pale, then red, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. "That's impossible. She was faithful. I know she was faithful." "I'm only reporting the medical facts," Dr. Patterson said calmly. "The genetic markers don't match. However..." He paused, and something in his expression shifted. Tension. Fear, almost. "There is a match in our database. The biological father's DNA is flagged in our system." "Flagged?" I echoed. "What does that mean?" "It means," a new voice said from the doorway, deep and smooth as aged whiskey, "that you and I need to have a conversation, Sarah." I looked up, and my entire world tilted on its axis. The man standing in the doorway didn't just enter the room, he commanded it. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than everything I owned combined. His dark hair was pushed back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, full lips set in a firm line, but it was his eyes that made my breath catch. Dark, intense, and fixed solely on me, with an expression that made my skin prickle with something between fear and awareness. Behind him stood two other men, clearly security. They wore earpieces and had the kind of posture that screamed military training. One of them scanned the room systematically, his hand resting near his jacket in a way that suggested a concealed weapon. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus demanded, but his voice had lost its earlier confidence. He'd taken a step back, I noticed. Away from this stranger. The man ignored him completely. His gaze never left mine as he moved further into the room, each step deliberate and controlled. The air seemed to thicken with his presence, and I found myself holding Lily tighter, some instinct I didn't understand screaming at me that this man was dangerous. "My name is Dante Moretti," he said, and the name sent a chill down my spine. I knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. The Moretti family wasn't just wealthy. They were untouchable, connected. There were whispers about their business dealings, rumors that never made it to print because journalists who dug too deep tended to disappear. "I don't understand," I managed to say, my voice shaking. "I've never met you. I've never..." 7 months ago, Dante interrupted, his voice softer now, but no less intense. "The Grand Plaza Hotel, the charity gala for children's cancer research. You were working there, weren't you?" serving drinks in that black uniform that was too big for you. The memory slammed into me with the force of a tidal wave. The gala. I'd taken the catering job to make extra money after Marcus had started coming home later and later, his credit card statements showing charges I didn't recognize. I'd been carrying a tray of champagne flutes through the crowded ballroom when someone bumped into me from behind. The tray had tilted, and I'd stumbled forward, the glasses sliding. Straight into someone's chest, strong hands had caught me, steadied me. I'd looked up into dark eyes and felt something electric pass between us. He'd smiled. A real smile, not the practiced kind wealthy people gave servers, and told me not to worry about his shirt. "It's just fabric," he'd said. "Are you all right?" I'd nodded, mortified, already stepping back and apologizing profusely, but he'd kept his hand on my arm for just a second longer than necessary, his thumb brushing against the inside of my wrist where my pulse was racing. "What's your name?" he'd asked. "Sarah," I'd whispered. And then someone had called his name, Dante, and he'd been pulled away into the crowd. I'd watched him go. This beautiful, powerful man who'd looked at me like I was more than just invisible help in a too big uniform. For the rest of the night, I'd felt his eyes on me, tracking my movements across the ballroom. I'd gone home to Marcus that night, crawled into bed beside him, and tried to forget the way a stranger's touch had made me feel more seen than my own husband's ever had. "I remember," I whispered now, looking at Dante Moretti standing in my hospital room, claiming to be my daughter's father. "But we never... nothing happened. You just caught me when I stumbled, that's all." "Is it?" His eyes held mine, and I saw something flicker in their depths. "Think carefully, Sarah. Think about what happened after the gala ended." My mind raced, fragments of memory surfacing like debris after a shipwreck. The gala had run late. I'd been one of the last servers to leave, exhausted and aching in my uncomfortable shoes. I'd walked out the back entrance toward the parking garage, my car sitting in the far corner where employees were required to park. The footsteps behind me, the sudden grip on my arm, spinning me around. Marcus, his breath reeking of alcohol, his eyes wild with something I'd never seen before. "Who is he?" he'd demanded. "Who's the guy you kept making eyes at all night?" "No one," I'd said, confused and frightened. "Marcus, what are you—" He'd dragged me toward a service corridor, and everything after that was fragmented, shouting, his hands on me, rough and angry, me trying to pull away, and then nothing, a blank space in my memory, like someone had taken an eraser to that night. I'd woken up the next morning in my own bed with a pounding headache and bruises on my arms that Marcus had said were from me, being dramatic and falling, when he'd tried to take me home because I'd had too much to drink, but I hadn't been drinking. I never drank at catering events. I couldn't afford to lose the job. "I don't remember," I said slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. "After the gala, there's a gap. I thought I was just tired, but..." Dante's jaw tightened, and for the first time, I saw pure rage flash across his face. It was there and gone in an instant, replaced by that controlled mask. But it had been real, terrifying and somehow protective. "Dr. Patterson," Dante said, not taking his eyes off me. "Would you mind giving us the room? Mr. Chen as well. This is a private matter." "Now wait just a damn minute," Marcus started. But one of Dante's security guards moved forward, his presence enough to make Marcus stumble back. "The hospital has already confirmed I'm the biological father," Dante said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "Which means you have no legal standing here. I suggest you leave before I have security escort you out." Marcus looked at me, and I saw calculation in his eyes. He was weighing his options, trying to figure out how to spin this to his advantage. The blonde woman tugged on his sleeve, whispering urgently, "This isn't over," Marcus said finally, pointing at me. "You're going to regret this, Sarah. You're going to regret all of it." He stormed out, his girlfriend click-clacking behind him, and suddenly the room felt both larger and smaller. Just me, Lily sleeping against my chest, and Dante Moretti, a man I didn't remember, claiming to be my daughter's father. Dr. Patterson cleared his throat. "Ms. Rivera, would you like me to stay?" I should have said yes. Every instinct I'd developed over years of being careful, of protecting myself, screamed at me to keep the doctor in the room. But when I looked at Dante, I didn't see the same coldness I'd seen in Marcus's eyes. I saw something else. Something fierce and possessive, and utterly focused on me and the baby in my arms. "It's okay," I heard myself say. "You can go." The door clicked shut, and I was alone with a stranger who was apparently the father of my child. A stranger I couldn't remember being with. A stranger whose name carried weight and danger and power that made Marcus look like a child playing dress-up. Dante moved closer, and I found I couldn't breathe properly. He sat down in the chair beside my bed, not hovering over me, not crowding me, but close enough that I could smell his cologne. Expensive, masculine, intoxicating. "I'm going to tell you something," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving my face. "And I need you to listen very carefully. Can you do that for me, Sarah?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "That night, after the gala, your husband drugged you." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and impossible. "Drugged me." "That's not—" I started, but Dante held up a hand, silencing me with just that simple gesture. The gold ring on his finger caught the harsh hospital light, and I noticed the family crest engraved on it. Old money, old power. "Let me finish," he said, and his voice was gentler now, almost careful, as if he was afraid I might shatter. "After you left through the back entrance, I followed, not to—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I'd been watching you all night. The way you moved through that ballroom like you were trying to be invisible. The way you flinched every time someone snapped their fingers at you for another drink. And then I saw the way your husband grabbed you." My stomach turned cold. Marcus had grabbed me. I remembered that much. The anger in his eyes, the accusation. "I confronted him," Dante continued, "in that service corridor, told him to take his hands off you. He got aggressive, started shouting about how you were his wife, and I needed to mind my own business. You were barely conscious by then. Whatever he'd given you was working fast." "Why would he drug me?" The question came out as a whisper. "He was my husband. If he wanted to take me home, he could just—" "Because he was angry," Dante interrupted, and now his voice held an edge of fury that made my breath catch. "Jealous. He'd seen us together when I caught you. Saw the way I looked at you, the way you looked at me, and he wanted to punish you for it." I pulled Lily closer, as if her tiny body could shield me from these terrible truths. She stirred against my chest, making small mewling sounds in her sleep. "I took you from him," Dante said simply. "Told my security to handle your husband. Got you into my car. You were fading in and out of consciousness, mumbling about needing to get home, about how Marcus would be angry if you weren't there when he got back. I took you to my penthouse instead. Had my private physician examine you, make sure whatever he'd given you wasn't going to cause permanent damage." My mind was reeling, trying to process this information, trying to reconcile it with the blank space in my memory. "I don't remember any of this. The drug he used causes temporary amnesia. Rohypnol, most likely. My doctor confirmed it from your blood work." Dante's hands clenched into fists on his knees, and I saw his jaw working. "You stayed in my guest room that night. I sat outside your door to make sure you were safe. In the morning, you woke up confused, frightened. You didn't remember the gala ending, didn't remember your husband attacking you, didn't remember me bringing you to safety. Then how—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "How did we end up conceiving Lily?" Dante's eyes met mine, and I saw something raw and honest in them. "You came out of the guest room around dawn, found me in the living room. You were still disoriented, but you were crying. Said you remembered pieces, remembered Marcus's hands on you, his anger. You asked me why someone who was supposed to love you would hurt you like that." He paused, and I watched his throat work as he swallowed. "I should have called you a car, should have had my driver take you home. But you looked at me with those eyes, the same eyes looking at me right now, and asked me to make you forget, just for a little while. Asked me to help you feel something other than fear and pain." Heat flooded my cheeks as understanding dawned. "We slept together. Yes." No apology in his voice, no shame. Just simple acknowledgement, and then you left. Got dressed, called a cab before I could stop you. By the time I got downstairs, you were gone. I tried to find you, Sarah. Spent weeks trying to track you down. but you'd given me a fake last name that night at the gala. Said your name was Sarah Martinez, not Rivera, and you'd quit the catering company the next day. I left because Marcus told me I'd embarrassed him at the gala by getting drunk, I said, the memory surfacing through the fog. He said the catering company had complained about my behavior. I was so ashamed. I quit before they could fire me. He lied to you. Dante's voice was flat, dangerous. Manipulated you. Made you believe you were the problem when he was the one who'd assaulted you. The baby monitor beside my bed beeped steadily, tracking Lily's heartbeat, reminding me that this wasn't just about me anymore. This tiny person sleeping against my chest was the product of that night. Of something I couldn't remember, but that had somehow resulted in the most precious thing in my world. So what happens now? I asked, my voice barely audible. You're her father, biologically. But I don't know you. I don't remember being with you. And I stopped, not sure how to articulate what I knew about the Moretti family without directly accusing him of being involved in organized crime. I'm dangerous, Dante finished for me, and there was something almost like amusement in his voice. I'm connected to things you're better off not knowing about. I'm not a good man, Sarah. I've done things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details. But he leaned forward, and his hand came up slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his fingers brushed against Lily's dark hair, so gentle it made my chest ache. But this is my daughter, and you are the mother of my child, which means you're both under my protection now, whether you want to be or not. I don't need protection, I said, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. Marcus had already found me here, had already threatened me. And if what Dante was saying was true, if Marcus had drugged me, assaulted me, then what else was he capable of? Your ex-husband works for the Volkov family, Dante said, and my blood ran cold at the name. The Volkovs were the Russian mob's presence in the city. Brutal. Ruthless. He's one of their money launderers. Has been for the past 3 years. That's why he left you so suddenly. He was being relocated to handle a new territory for them. But he made a mistake. Skimmed money he wasn't supposed to touch, and now he's desperate. What does that have to do with me? Dante's eyes were dark and serious. He thinks if he can prove paternity of your daughter, he can use her to leverage his way back into the Volkov's good graces, offer his firstborn as collateral for his debt. It's barbaric, but it's how they operate. Nausea rolled through me. He would sell his own daughter? He's not her father, Dante corrected, and there was steel in his voice now. I am. And no one, not Marcus Chen, not the Volkovs, not anyone, is going to touch either of you. Do you understand me? I should have been terrified. This man was essentially telling me I was now involved in some kind of mob warfare, that my daughter, hours old, still learning to breathe on her own, was somehow caught in the middle of dangerous men and their dangerous games. But instead, looking at Dante's fierce expression, feeling the protective fury radiating off him, I felt safe. For the first time since seeing those divorce papers, for the first time since realizing I was going to be a single mother, for the first time since Marcus had walked into this hospital room with ownership in his eyes, I felt like someone was actually on my side. I don't understand any of this, I admitted, my voice cracking. Yesterday, I thought I was just a broke, divorced single mom about to raise a baby alone. Now you're telling me I was drugged and assaulted by my own husband? That I slept with a man I don't remember? And that my daughter is somehow valuable to the Russian mob? I know it's overwhelming. Dante's hand moved from Lily's hair to my arm, his touch warm through the thin hospital gown. But I need you to trust me, Sarah, just for now. Just until I can get you somewhere safe. Safe where? I have an apartment. I have a job I need to get back to. Your apartment is being watched. I had my people check before I came here. 3 of Volkov's men in a car across the street. And your job... He pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, then showed me the screen. Your boss received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your lawyer, saying you're suing the company for pregnancy discrimination and demanding a settlement. Your position has been terminated. The email on his screen was from my manager. Subject line, immediate termination. My hands started shaking. Marcus, I whispered. He's destroying everything. He's trying to isolate you, make you desperate, make you vulnerable so you'll come back to him. Let him use Lily as his bargaining chip. Dante pocketed his phone and stood, towering over the hospital bed. But he made one critical mistake. What's that? He came after what's mine. The possessiveness in those words should have scared me. Should have sent up every red flag imaginable. But instead, warmth spread through my chest, something primal and instinctive recognizing the claim in his voice. I barely know you, I said, but it sounded weak even to my own ears. You knew me well enough 7 months ago, Dante replied, and there was heat in his gaze now, something that made my skin flush despite everything. Your body remembers me, even if your mind doesn't, and whether you believe it or not, Sarah, you're mine. You became mine the moment you asked me to make you forget, the moment you trusted me with your pain. And now, his eyes dropped to Lily, and his expression softened in a way that transformed his entire face. Now you've given me a daughter. Do you have any idea what that means to a man like me? I shook my head mutely. It means I would burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone harm either of you. It means every resource I have, every connection, every person who owes me a favor. It all belongs to you now, to her. He reached out again, and this time his thumb traced along my cheekbone, wiping away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You don't have to love me. You don't even have to like me, but you will let me protect you, because the alternative is watching Marcus hand our daughter over to men who traffic children for profit. The stark reality of those words hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a romantic movie where everything would work out fine. This was real life, with real monsters, and my baby girl was caught in the crossfire of something I didn't understand. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay, what do we do? Relief flashed across Dante's face, there and gone in an instant. First, you're going to stay here tonight. I'll have security outside your door. No one gets in except medical staff I've personally vetted. Tomorrow morning, I'm moving you to one of my properties, somewhere safe, secure, where Marcus can't find you. And then I handle your ex-husband. The way he said it, cold, final, made me wonder exactly what handle meant in Dante Moretti's world, but that's not something you need to worry about. Your only job is to focus on healing and taking care of our daughter. Our daughter. He kept saying that, claiming Lily as his own without hesitation, without question. And despite everything, despite the insanity of this entire situation, I found I wanted him to keep saying it. Wanted to believe that I wasn't alone anymore. A knock on the door made us both tense. Dante moved with lightning speed, positioning himself between me and the entrance, his hand moving to his jacket in the same way his security guards had earlier. Definitely a gun. It's just the nurse, came a female voice. I need to check on the baby and take Mom's vitals. Dante relaxed marginally, but didn't move from his protective stance until the nurse, the same kind-faced woman from earlier, entered with a rolling cart of medical supplies. Her eyes widened when she saw Dante, recognition flashing across her face. Everyone knew the Morettis, but she quickly schooled her expression and turned to me with a professional smile. How are we feeling, Mama? Is she latching okay? The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of medical checks and instructions. The nurse examined Lily, pronounced her perfect and healthy, then checked my incision site from where they'd had to do an emergency C-section during the delivery. I'd forgotten about that part, the sudden drop in Lily's heart rate, the rushed decisions, the terrifying speed with which they'd prepped me for surgery. Throughout it all, Dante stood by the window, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low, rapid Italian to whoever was on the other end. I caught fragments, immediate extraction, full security detail, eliminate the threat, and decided I was better off not knowing the details. When the nurse finally left, Dante returned to my bedside. My men are securing the property now. It's outside the city, on a private estate, gated, guarded, completely isolated. You'll have everything you need. A nursery, medical equipment, round-the-clock help if you want it. It sounds like a prison, I said quietly. It's a sanctuary, he corrected. A prison is somewhere you can't leave. You're free to go anytime you want, Sarah, but if you leave my protection, I can't guarantee your safety, or hers. As if on cue, Lily began to fuss, her small face scrunching up as she started to cry. Instinctively, I adjusted her position, trying to soothe her, but my body was exhausted, my arms shaking from the effort of holding her. "Here," Dante said softly, and before I could protest, he was reaching for her. "Let me." I should have refused, should have held on to my daughter and kept this dangerous stranger at arm's length, but I was so tired, and he was looking at Lily with such wonder, such fierce protectiveness, that I found myself carefully transferring her into his arms. He held her like she was made of glass, supporting her head with one large hand, cradling her body against his chest with the other. And as I watched this powerful, dangerous man gently rock my newborn daughter, whispering to her in Italian, words I didn't understand but that sounded like promises, something inside me cracked open. "Mia piccola principessa," he murmured. "My little princess. No one will ever hurt you. I swear it on my life." Lily quieted in his arms, her crying settling into small hiccups as she stared up at his face with those unfocused newborn eyes. And Dante smiled. A real, genuine smile that transformed his entire face into something beautiful and almost boyish. "She's perfect," he said, looking at me. "You made something perfect, Sarah." "We made her," I corrected softly, and something hot and intense flared in his eyes at those words. "Yes," he agreed. "We did." The morning light filtered through the hospital blinds in pale strips, painting the room in shades of gold and gray. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face, twisted with rage and ownership. Or I saw Dante, this beautiful stranger, who'd somehow become the father of my child, holding Lily with such tenderness, it made my chest physically ache. 2 men stood outside my door now. Dante's security. One was tall and broad-shouldered with a scar running through his left eyebrow. The other was leaner, younger, but his eyes held the kind of alertness that suggested military training. Every time a nurse approached, they checked credentials, spoke into their earpieces, confirmed clearance before allowing entry. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like the first full breath I'd taken in months. Lily nursed contentedly at my breast, her tiny fingers splayed against my skin. The lactation consultant had come by an hour ago, pronounced us a perfect pair, and left with a cheerful reminder to stay hydrated. As if hydration was my biggest concern right now. My phone, which I'd silenced after the 10th call from an unknown number, sat on the bedside table like a ticking bomb. 43 missed calls since yesterday, 17 voicemails, dozens of texts that I was too afraid to read. "Your phone's been buzzing all morning," one of the nurses said during her vitals check. She was different from the kind-faced woman from last night. Younger, with sharp eyes that took in everything. "Want me to turn it off for you?" "Please," I whispered. She powered it down with efficient movements, then paused. "Ms. Rivera. That man who was here yesterday, Mr. Moretti? My cousin works for his family, says he's tough but fair, says if he's protecting you, you're probably safer than the president." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just nodded. She gave me a knowing smile and left, pulling the door closed behind her. Dante arrived at 9 o'clock exactly, looking like he'd stepped out of a fashion magazine despite the early hour. Different suit, charcoal gray this time, with a black shirt underneath that made his dark eyes seem even more intense. His hair was still damp from a shower, and I caught the scent of his cologne as he approached the bed. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his gaze moving from me to Lily and back again. "Sore, confused, terrified," I admitted. "Take your pick." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. All reasonable responses. He pulled the chair closer, settling into it with the kind of grace that suggested he was comfortable anywhere, in any situation. "The doctor says you can be discharged this afternoon. I've arranged for a private ambulance to transport you to the estate." "Ambulance? I can walk." "You had major surgery less than 24 hours ago," Dante interrupted gently, "and the fewer people who see you leaving, the better. Marcus has people watching the main entrances. We're going out through the service exit in a medical transport vehicle. He'll be expecting a regular car." The level of planning, the attention to detail, it should have impressed me. Instead, it just reinforced how far out of my depth I was. "You've done this before, moved people who needed to disappear." It wasn't a question, and Dante didn't treat it like one. "Yes." Did they survive? The words came out before I could stop them. The people you moved. Did they make it? His expression grew serious. The ones who followed my instructions? Yes. The ones who thought they knew better, who tried to contact old friends or go back to their old lives. He paused meaningfully. Not all of them. Fear coiled in my stomach, cold and sharp. Is that supposed to reassure me? It's supposed to make you understand the stakes. Dante leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, bringing him closer to where I sat in the hospital bed. I need you to be smart about this, Sarah. That means no phone calls to friends, no social media posts, no trying to maintain your old life. For the next few weeks, maybe longer, you exist only where I can protect you. And what about after? I shifted Lily to my shoulder, patting her back gently to burp her. Do I just hide forever? Does she grow up in some compound, never knowing normal life? After, we deal with Marcus permanently. And the way he said it, so matter-of-fact, so final, sent chills down my spine. Once he's no longer a threat, you can decide what kind of life you want. But right now, survival comes first. Everything else is secondary. Lily let out a small burp, and despite everything, I found myself smiling. Such a normal, mundane sound in the middle of this insane conversation about mob protection and permanent solutions. Dante's expression softened as he watched us. Can I hold her again? I hesitated for just a moment before carefully transferring Lily into his waiting arms. He cradled her with the same gentle certainty as last night, his large hand somehow knowing exactly how to support her tiny body. She made a small sound of contentment, her face turning toward his chest as if searching for warmth. She trusts you, I observed quietly. Babies have good instincts, Dante replied, not taking his eyes off Lily's face. They know who means them harm and who will protect them. His thumb traced the curve of her cheek. So careful, so tender. She's going to have everything, Sarah. The best schools, the best opportunities. She'll never want for anything, except a normal life, I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice, except parents who are actually together, who chose each other, who what? Dante's eyes snapped to mine, and there was challenge in them now. Who love each other. How did that work out with Marcus? He chose you, married you, and then drugged and abandoned you. Sometimes the conventional path isn't the safe one. He wasn't wrong, but that didn't make this situation any less terrifying. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. He said it simply, as if it was that easy. We have time. You're going to be at the estate for weeks at minimum. Ask me anything you want. I looked at him. This powerful, dangerous man holding my newborn daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world, and dozens of questions tumbled through my mind. But only one seemed important in that moment. Why did you help me that night? I asked softly. At the gala. You could have just walked away, let Marcus take me home. Why didn't you? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant, remembering. Do you know what I saw when I looked at you that night? Not just a beautiful woman, though you were. Are, he corrected, and heat flooded my cheeks. I saw someone who'd learned to make herself small, who flinched at loud voices and apologized for existing. I recognized it because I grew up with women like that. My mother, my aunts. They learned to disappear to survive. His jaw clenched, and I saw old anger there, carefully controlled. When I saw your husband grab you, saw the way you tried to pull away and couldn't, something in me just snapped. No one was going to hurt you while I was there to prevent it. And then when I realized he'd drugged you, that he'd done it deliberately to punish you for a crime you didn't even commit. He stopped, taking a visible breath. I couldn't let you go back to him. Couldn't send you back into that house where he could hurt you worse. So you took me home instead, I said, piecing it together. Kept me safe. And in the morning, I asked you to. You asked me to help you forget, Dante finished. And I should have said no, should have been stronger. But you looked at me with so much pain, so much need to feel something other than fear, and He shook his head. I wanted you. Had wanted you from the moment you stumbled into me with that tray of champagne. So I let myself have you, even though I knew it was selfish. Even though I knew you weren't in a place to make clear decisions, the honesty in his words, the rawness, made something shift in my chest. He wasn't making excuses or trying to paint himself as a hero. He was admitting his own weakness, his own desire, and somehow that made him more real, more trustworthy. I don't remember it, I admitted, and there was grief in my voice. I don't remember being with you, don't remember what it felt like, or what we said to each other. That entire night is just gone. I remember enough for both of us. Dante's voice was low, intimate. You were beautiful, responsive. You cried afterward, but not from pain. From relief, you said, like something inside you that had been locked away finally broke free. My breath caught, and I felt tears prick at my eyes. To know that somewhere in my lost memories was a moment of genuine pleasure, of connection. It was both comforting and devastating. I wish I could remember, I whispered. Maybe it's better that you don't. Dante shifted Lily carefully, tucking her more securely against his chest. That way, there's no history weighing us down, no expectations or disappointments. We get to start fresh, get to know each other as we are now. With her as our reason, a knock on the door interrupted us. The scarred security guard, I'd learned his name was Marco, leaned in. Boss, we've got a situation. Dante's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The gentle father disappeared, replaced by something cold and commanding. What kind of situation? Chen's outside the main entrance with 2 Volkov enforcers. They're demanding to see Ms. Rivera and the baby. Hospital security is stalling, but get her ready to move. Now. Dante stood smoothly, transferring Lily back into my arms with practiced ease. We're leaving through the service entrance in 5 minutes. Have the ambulance ready. Sir. Marco hesitated. They've got the service entrance covered too. Someone tipped them off about the private transport. Dante's expression turned murderous. Then we go up. Up? I echoed, fear spiking through me. The roof. Dante was already moving, pulling out his phone and barking orders in rapid Italian. I have a helicopter standing by. We'll extract from there. A helicopter? My voice came out too high, panicked. I just had surgery. I have a newborn. We can't. We can and we will. Dante's hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Sarah, listen to me. If Marcus gets to you, if the Volkovs get their hands on Lily, you will never see her again. Do you understand? They will take her, and you will spend the rest of your life wondering where your daughter is, what they're doing to her. Is that what you want? No. The word came out as a sob. No. Please, then trust me. His thumb wiped away the tears on my cheeks. Trust me to keep you both safe. Can you do that? I looked into his dark eyes and saw absolute certainty there. This man who'd saved me once before, who'd given me a child I couldn't remember conceiving, who was now standing between me and monsters I'd never known existed. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I trust you. Good. He pressed a quick, fierce kiss to my forehead, then turned to Marco. Get a wheelchair. We move in 2 minutes. And Marco? Anyone who tries to stop us doesn't walk away, clear? Crystal, boss. What followed was a blur of controlled chaos. Nurses appeared with a wheelchair, their faces pale but professional. Someone wrapped Lily in extra blankets while I was helped into a robe over my hospital gown. My legs shook as I stood for the first time since surgery, pain lancing through my abdomen. But Dante's arm was there, supporting me, keeping me upright. I've got you, he murmured against my ear. Just hold on to Lily. I'll do the rest. They settled me in the wheelchair with Lily cradled in my lap. Dante positioned himself behind me, one hand on the wheelchair handle, the other inside his jacket where I knew his gun rested. Marco and the other guard, Alessandro, I'd heard Dante call him, flanked us, their own hands near their weapons. We moved through the corridors at a brisk pace, taking service elevators and back hallways I hadn't known existed. Twice we heard raised voices, the sounds of confrontation, but Dante's men steered us away before we encountered whoever was causing the commotion. Almost there, Dante said as we approached a stairwell marked, Roof access, authorized personnel only. You're doing great, Sarah. Just a little further. The climb was torture. Even though Dante lifted me from the wheelchair and carried me while Marco carried Lily, every jolt sent agony through my surgical site. I bit down on my lip to keep from crying out, tasting blood, focusing on my daughter's small form in Marco's careful grip. The roof access door burst open, and suddenly we were outside. The morning sun was blindingly bright after the dim hospital corridors. Wind whipped around us, cold and sharp, making me gasp. And there, in the center of the roof, was a sleek black helicopter, its rotors already spinning. "Go, go, go!" Dante shouted over the noise, and we were running. Or rather, they were running while carrying us. The helicopter door slid open, and hands reached out to help us inside. Dante practically threw me into a seat, then took Lily from Marco, and secured her in some kind of specialized infant carrier that was already strapped in. "Boss, we've got company," Alessandro yelled, and I looked back to see the roof access door slam open. Marcus emerged, flanked by two massive men in dark suits. Even from this distance, I could see the rage on his face. Dante's gun was out in a heartbeat, trained on the approaching men. "Get us airborne. Now." The pilot didn't need to be told twice. The helicopter lifted, and my stomach dropped as we rose into the sky. Through the window, I watched Marcus running toward us, shouting something I couldn't hear over the rotor noise. He looked furious, desperate, dangerous. And then we were too high, too far away, and he was just a small figure on a hospital rooftop, growing smaller by the second. Dante slid into the seat beside me, his gun still in his hand, his eyes scanning the city below as we climbed higher. "You okay?" I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of the question. I'd just escaped from a hospital in a dramatic helicopter extraction, fleeing from my ex-husband and Russian mobsters who apparently wanted to traffic my newborn daughter. Nothing about this was okay, but when I looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully in her specialized carrier despite the noise and motion, something settled in my chest. She was safe. We were safe. For now, that had to be enough. "I'm okay," I said, and meant it. Dante's hand found mine, his fingers threading through mine with surprising gentleness. "The estate is 30 minutes from here. Once we land, you can rest, recover, and I promise you, Sarah, no one is getting through my security." Not Marcus, not the Volkovs, not anyone. I squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his certainty. Below us, the city spread out like a toy landscape, all tiny buildings and winding streets. Somewhere down there was my old apartment with my meager possessions. My old job that I'd lost. My old life that had been built on lies and false security. That life was gone now, dead and buried along with my marriage, and my naive belief that I could just quietly exist on the margins of the world. Now I was flying over the city in a private helicopter, holding the hand of a Mafia boss, fleeing toward an uncertain future with a daughter I'd only just met. It should have been terrifying. Instead, watching Dante's profile as he stared out the window, seeing the protective tension in his shoulders, feeling the solid warmth of his hand in mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt hope. The estate materialized below us like something from a dream, or perhaps a fairy tale, though I wasn't sure yet if it was the kind with a happy ending. Sprawling gardens surrounded a stone mansion that looked like it had been transplanted directly from the Italian countryside. High walls encircled the entire property, and I could see armed guards positioned at regular intervals along the perimeter. A gilded cage, I thought, then immediately felt guilty. These people were protecting us. This was sanctuary, not imprisonment. The helicopter touched down on a private helipad near the main house, and the moment the rotors began to slow, Dante was in motion. He unbuckled Lily's carrier with practiced efficiency. Had he researched infant safety seats? And lifted her out, cradling her against his chest before turning to help me. "Easy," he murmured as I tried to stand. My legs nearly buckled, the pain from the surgery making everything spin. Dante's arm came around my waist, supporting most of my weight. "I've got you." A woman appeared beside us, early 50s, silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun, wearing dark slacks and a cream blouse. Her face was kind, but professional, and she immediately assessed me with the practiced eye of someone who'd dealt with traumatized people before. "Ms. Rivera, I'm Elena. I'll be coordinating your care while you're here." Her voice carried a faint Italian accent. "We have a medical suite prepared on the first floor. No stairs for you to navigate. Dr. Castellano is standing by to examine both you and the baby." "I just left the hospital," I protested weakly, but Elena was already guiding us toward the house with Dante on my other side. "Hospital doctors are competent," she said diplomatically. But Dr. Castellano has been with the Moretti family for 30 years. He'll ensure you're healing properly, and that the baby hasn't been stressed by the unconventional departure. The inside of the mansion was breathtaking. All marble floors and vaulted ceilings, with artwork that looked museum quality adorning the walls. But Elena led us quickly through the grandeur to a wing that felt more intimate, more lived in. She opened a door to reveal a spacious suite that somehow managed to be both luxurious and comfortable. A hospital-grade bed dominated one corner, but there was also a plush sofa, a rocking chair by the window, and, my breath caught, a fully equipped nursery area with a white crib, changing table, and shelves stocked with diapers, clothes, and supplies. How? I started, but Dante answered before I could finish. I had people working on this since yesterday, he said, gently lowering me onto the bed. Everything you might need for the next few months. If something's missing, tell Elena and she'll acquire it. A man entered carrying a black medical bag. Dr. Castellano, presumably. He was older, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, but his hands were steady as he approached. Mr. Moretti, he greeted Dante with a respectful nod, then turned to me with a warm smile. Ms. Rivera, congratulations on your daughter. Now, let's make sure you're both in good health, shall we? The examination was thorough, but gentle. Dr. Castellano checked my incision, asked questions about pain levels and bleeding, and seemed satisfied with my answers. Then he turned his attention to Lily, conducting a full newborn assessment while Dante hovered nearby like an anxious hawk. She's perfect, the doctor finally pronounced. Strong heartbeat, good reflexes, excellent color. The helicopter ride doesn't seem to have affected her at all. Resilient little one, like her mother, Dante said quietly, and I felt heat rise in my cheeks. Dr. Castellano left detailed care instructions with Elena, along with prescriptions for my pain management and antibiotics to prevent infection. After he departed, Elena showed me the bathroom, equipped with a walk-in shower that had safety rails and a built-in bench, and helped me change into soft pajamas that definitely hadn't come from my apartment. Mr. Moretti had these sent from Milan, Elena explained when she saw me examining the designer label. He wanted you to be comfortable. This probably cost more than my monthly rent, I murmured, running my fingers over the silk fabric. Elena's smile held secrets. Mr. Moretti doesn't do anything by halves. You'll learn that quickly. Once I was settled back in bed with Lily nursing contentedly, Elena excused herself, leaving me alone with Dante. He'd removed his jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves, making him look slightly less intimidating but no less powerful. He stood by the window, looking out over the gardens, his phone pressed to his ear as he spoke in rapid Italian. I caught fragments. Chen, Volkov, permanent solution, and decided I didn't want to know the details. Whatever Dante was planning for Marcus, it was probably better if I maintained plausible deniability. He ended the call and turned to find me watching him. You should rest. You've been through hell in the past 24 hours. I don't think I can sleep, I admitted. Every time I close my eyes, I see Marcus on that roof, or I think about what could have happened if we hadn't gotten away. Dante crossed the room and settled into the rocking chair beside the bed, close enough that I could reach out and touch him if I wanted. He can't reach you here. The estate has military-grade security, facial recognition cameras, armed patrols, sensors on every inch of the perimeter. A mouse couldn't get in without me knowing about it. And what about getting out? The question slipped out before I could stop it. His expression grew serious. Sarah, I meant what I said at the hospital. You're not a prisoner. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. But I strongly advise against it until Marcus is no longer a threat. Once he's handled, you can go anywhere you want, do anything you want. I'll provide security, financial support, whatever you need. Why? I shifted Lily to my other breast, trying to ignore the ache in my surgical site. Why do all of this for someone you barely know? Because she's mine. Dante's eyes dropped to Lily, and his expression softened in that devastating way that made my heart skip. Because you carried my child, brought her into this world, and kept her safe when you had no idea who I was, or that I even existed. That kind of strength, that kind of dedication. It deserves to be protected, honored. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, bringing him closer. And because when I think about what Marcus did to you, when I remember finding you barely conscious in that corridor, knowing he drugged his own wife just to punish her for an imagined slight, his hands clenched into fists. No one who would do that to another human being deserves to live, let alone have access to a child. The cold finality in his voice sent chills down my spine. You're going to kill him. It wasn't a question, but Dante answered anyway. I'm going to make sure he never hurts you again. What that entails is better left unsaid. I should have been horrified, should have recoiled from this admission of planned violence, but all I felt was a terrible, shameful relief. Marcus had haunted my life for too long. First as the husband who'd grown increasingly controlling and cold, then as the ex who'd abandoned me, and now as the threat hanging over my daughter's head. If Dante could make that threat disappear... I'm a terrible person, I whispered. I should be telling you not to do this. Should be insisting there are legal ways to handle this. The legal system failed you when it let Marcus walk away from drugging and assaulting you, Dante replied. When it would give him parental rights to a child he planned to sell to pay his debts. Sometimes the law isn't enough. Sometimes justice requires dirtier hands. Lily finished nursing and I lifted her to my shoulder, patting her back gently. Dante stood and moved closer, his hand coming up to stroke her dark hair. She has your nose, he observed softly. And your eyes, I countered. I noticed it this morning, that same dark intensity. God help us all if she inherits my temperament, Dante said with a slight smile. I was a nightmare as a child. My mother used to say I came out of the womb arguing. It was the first personal thing he'd shared that wasn't directly related to the crisis we were in. I found myself hungry for more, for details that would help me understand this man who'd so thoroughly disrupted my life. Tell me about your family, I said. Your mother. Your childhood. Dante's expression grew distant, remembering. My mother was French. Marie Dubois. She met my father when she was working as a translator in Rome. He was already deep in the family business by then, but she didn't care. Said she saw the man beneath the reputation. He paused. She died when I was 12, cancer. I'm sorry, I said softly. My father never recovered. He became harder, colder, threw himself into work, into expanding the family's influence. I barely saw him after that, was raised mostly by my uncle Salvatore, and a succession of tutors and bodyguards. His jaw tightened. I swore I'd never be like him. If I ever had a family, I'd be present, involved. I wouldn't let work consume everything. Is that why you're here? I asked. Instead of handling Marcus yourself? Marco and Alessandro are more than capable of managing that situation, Dante replied. My place is here, with you. With her. His finger traced Lily's tiny hand, and she reflexively gripped it, making him smile. I won't be an absent father, Sarah. I know this situation is far from conventional, but I meant what I said. She's mine. And I take care of what's mine. The possessiveness in his words should have bothered me, but instead it settled something anxious in my chest. For so long I'd felt alone, invisible, like my existence barely registered in the world. But the way Dante looked at me, at Lily, we weren't invisible to him. We were seen, protected, claimed. A soft knock interrupted us. Elena entered carrying a tray laden with food. You need to eat, Ms. Rivera. Keep your strength up for nursing. The smell of fresh bread and soup made my stomach growl, reminding me I hadn't eaten since yesterday. Elena set up a bed tray, and I realized the soup was minestrone, hearty and rich, with vegetables and pasta in a savory broth. There was also crusty bread, sliced fruit, and a chocolate pastry that looked sinful. This is too much, I protested weakly, but Elena just smiled. You're feeding 2 people now. Eat. Dante took Lily from me so I could eat properly. Watching him hold her, this powerful, dangerous man cradling my tiny daughter with such careful tenderness. Something shifted deep in my chest. Something that felt dangerously close to trust, to hope. Maybe even to something warmer. I was halfway through the soup when my entire body suddenly rebelled. Exhaustion crashed over me like a wave, so profound I could barely keep my eyes open. The spoon slipped from my fingers, clattering against the bowl. Easy, Dante said immediately, standing with Lily still in his arms. Elena, help her lie down. I'm fine, I tried to say, but Elena was already gently removing the tray and helping me recline against the pillows. My surgical site throbbed, my breasts ached from nursing, and every muscle in my body felt like it had been wrung out and left to dry. You're not fine. You've had major surgery, given birth, been terrorized by your ex-husband, and extracted via helicopter. Your body needs rest. Dante laid Lily in the bassinet beside my bed, then pulled a blanket over me. Sleep. I'll stay and watch her. You don't have to, I started. But he cut me off with a look. I want to. Let me do this, Sarah. Let me take care of you both. My eyes were already closing, sleep pulling me under despite my protests. The last thing I remembered was Dante settling back into the rocking chair, his dark eyes fixed on Lily's sleeping form, and thinking that maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. I woke to darkness and the sound of Lily crying. For a disoriented moment, I didn't know where I was. The bed was too comfortable, the room too large, the ceiling too high. Then memory crashed back. The estate. Dante. Everything. Soft light suddenly illuminated the room, and I saw Dante standing beside Lily's bassinet, already lifting her out. He moved with surprising confidence for someone who'd only known about her existence for a day. Sorry, I said groggily, trying to sit up and wincing at the pull on my incision. I'll take her. I've got her. Dante was already changing her diaper with efficient movements. You need to rest. How long since you took your pain medication? I had to think about it. Hours? The clock on the nightstand read 2:47 a.m. I'd been asleep for over 8 hours. I should feed her. Then get comfortable. I'll bring her to you. He finished with the diaper, wrapped Lily back in her blanket, and carried her to the bed. I adjusted my position, and he carefully placed her in my arms, then handed me the glass of water and pain pills Elena had left on the nightstand. Take these first. I swallowed the medication and got Lily latched while Dante settled back into the rocking chair. It should have been awkward, this intimate moment of feeding our daughter with him watching, but somehow it wasn't. It felt natural. Right. You're good at this, I observed. The diaper changing. I barely know what I'm doing. I watched YouTube videos, Dante admitted, and I blinked in surprise. After you left the hospital, I spent 3 hours researching infant care. Diapers, swaddling, sleep schedules, everything. The image of this powerful Mafia boss watching parenting tutorials on YouTube made something warm bloom in my chest. That's actually really sweet. I don't do anything halfway, he replied. If I'm going to be her father, I'm going to do it properly. That means knowing how to care for her, not just throwing money at the problem and hiring nannies. Will you tell me about it? I asked quietly. About your world. About what being part of your family really means. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. My world is complicated, dangerous, built on traditions that go back generations, and codes of honor that outsiders don't understand. But at its core, it's about family, about loyalty, about protecting what's yours at any cost. He leaned forward, his dark eyes intense in the low light. The Moretti family has operated in this city for over a century. We have legitimate businesses, restaurants, real estate, import-export. But there are other operations that exist in the gray areas, protection services, information brokering, conflict resolution for people who can't go through official channels. And the Volkovs? I asked. Marcus's people? The Volkovs are different. They're newer, more brutal. They deal in things we don't touch, human trafficking, hard drugs, anything that turns a profit regardless of the human cost. They've been trying to muscle into our territory for years, and Marcus's debt to them was an opportunity. If he could deliver a Moretti heir to them, it would give them leverage, power, a way to hurt us. Horror washed through me. They would have taken her, used her against you. They would have tried, Dante corrected, and his voice dropped to something cold and lethal. But they failed. Because you're here, she's here, and I will burn their entire organization to the ground before I let them touch either of you. Lily had finished nursing, her eyes drifting closed in that milk-drunk contentment all newborns had. I lifted her to my shoulder, and Dante immediately stood to take her, burping her with the confidence of someone who'd watched those YouTube tutorials very carefully. What happens now? I asked. With Marcus? With the Volkovs? Now we wait. Dante replied, gently rocking Lily. My people are working on locating Marcus and determining how deep his involvement with the Volkovs goes. Once we have that information, we'll handle it. Permanently. He placed Lily back in her bassinet, making sure she was swaddled properly before turning back to me. In the meantime, you heal. You bond with our daughter. You adjust to being here. And when you're ready, if you're ready, we talk about what comes next, for all of us. What do you want to come next? The question was bold, probably too bold, but the darkness and the intimacy of the moment made me brave. Dante moved closer, sitting on the edge of the bed, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. I want you to stay, not just until the threat is eliminated, but after. I want to build something here, Sarah, a real family. Not the cold, distant thing I grew up with, but something warm, safe, real. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. I know it's fast. I know you don't remember being with me. Don't know me beyond these intense circumstances. But I feel something when I look at you. Something that goes beyond just protecting the mother of my child. And I hope that given time, you might feel it too. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Dante, you don't have to answer now, he said softly. I'm a patient man when it matters. I can wait for you to heal, to feel safe, to decide what you want. But I needed you to know that I'm not just offering protection. I'm offering partnership, family. A real future if you want it. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his expression darkening as he read the message. What is it? I asked, fear spiking through me. Marco has located Marcus, Dante said, his voice cold. He's at a Volkov safe house on the south side, negotiating terms for delivering you and Lily to them in exchange for his debt being forgiven. Rage and terror warred in my chest. He's really going to do it. Going to try to take our daughter. He's going to try, Dante agreed, standing, but he won't succeed. I need to handle this, Sarah. Need to end this threat tonight so you can stop looking over your shoulder. Be careful, I said, and was surprised by how much I meant it. This man who was still essentially a stranger had become important to me with startling speed. The thought of something happening to him made my chest tight with anxiety. Dante leaned down and pressed a kiss to my forehead, then another to Lily's sleeping form. I'll be back before sunrise. Elena will stay with you. If anything happens, anything at all, she has protocols to move you to a secure location, but nothing will happen. I promise you that. And then he was gone, striding out of the room with purpose and lethal intent, leaving me alone with our daughter and a fear that coiled tight in my stomach. I knew what he was going to do, knew that somewhere in the city, Marcus's time was running out. And despite everything, the fear, the uncertainty, the moral complications, all I felt was relief. Because my daughter would be safe. Because the man who'd hurt me, betrayed me, tried to sell his own child, would never be able to do it again. Dante Moretti was keeping his promise. He was protecting what was his. Dawn broke over the estate in shades of pink and gold, painting the gardens in soft light that should have been peaceful. Instead, I sat in the rocking chair by the window with Lily in my arms, watching the sunrise and waiting for Dante to return. Elena had brought me tea an hour ago, her face professionally neutral, but her eyes betraying concern. He'll be fine, she'd assured me. Mr. Moretti always comes home, but I'd heard the emphasis on always. The slight hesitation that suggested there had been close calls, times when coming home hadn't been guaranteed. Lily stirred against my chest, making small mewling sounds. I adjusted her position, marveling at how something so tiny could have completely transformed my entire existence in less than 48 hours. 2 days ago, I'd been alone, preparing to raise a child as a single mother, resigned to a life of struggle and invisibility. Now I was in a mansion, under the protection of a man who claimed to be willing to burn the city down for us. A man who'd gone to eliminate my ex-husband, because that ex-husband had tried to sell our daughter to the Russian mob. The surreal nature of it all should have made it feel like a nightmare. Instead, watching the gardens bloom into color with the rising sun, feeling the solid weight of my daughter in my arms, I felt something close to contentment. The sound of a helicopter approaching made my heart leap. I stood carefully, ignoring the pull of my incision, and moved closer to the window. The black helicopter touched down on the helipad, and moments later, Dante emerged. Even from this distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the dark stains on his white shirt that I tried not to think too hard about. He spoke briefly with Marco and Alessandro, then strode toward the house with that predatory grace I was beginning to recognize. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit back down before my legs gave out. He was alive. Whole. Home. 5 minutes later, my door opened and Dante entered. He'd changed his shirt and washed his hands, but I could still see traces of dried blood under his fingernails. Our eyes met, and something passed between us, an understanding that didn't need words. "It's done," he said simply. I nodded, not asking for details I didn't want to know. "The Volkovs will be receiving a message about what happens when they threaten what belongs to me." His voice was cold, final. "They won't come near you or Lily again. Neither will anyone else connected to Marcus Chen." The name sounded strange now, Marcus Chen, as if he was already becoming a ghost, a bad memory that was fading into insignificance. The man who drugged me, abandoned me, tried to traffic our daughter. Past tense. No longer a threat. Dante crossed the room and knelt beside my chair, his large hands gentle as they covered mine where they rested on Lily's back. "You're safe now. Both of you. I know it doesn't erase what he did, doesn't give you back what he took, but he can never hurt you again. Thank you," I whispered, and meant it with everything in me. He studied my face, his dark eyes searching. "How are you feeling?" "Really?" "Confused," I admitted. "Relieved. Terrified of what all this means. Grateful that you've protected us, and..." I hesitated, then decided honesty was the only way forward, and drawn to you in a way that doesn't make sense given the circumstances. Something heated flared in Dante's eyes. "It makes perfect sense to me. You're the mother of my child. You're under my protection. And despite everything, despite the unconventional way we came together, I want you. Want to build something real with you." "I don't even know what that would look like," I said softly. "I don't know your world, Dante. Don't know if I could fit into it. Then let me show you." He stood, then carefully lifted Lily from my arms and placed her in her bassinet. When he returned, he held out his hand. "Let me show you what your life could be here, what our life could be." I took his hand, letting him help me to my feet. He was careful of my surgical site, his arm coming around my waist to support me as we moved slowly out of the medical suite and into the main part of the house. In daylight, the mansion was even more breathtaking. He showed me the library, walls lined with books in multiple languages, comfortable reading chairs positioned near tall windows, the music room with a grand piano and various instruments arranged carefully on stands, a conservatory filled with plants and natural light, where he said I could come whenever I needed peace. "This wing would be yours," he said, leading me through a series of connected rooms. "Your own space. Bedroom, sitting room, private bath. Lily's nursery would connect to it, so you'd never be far from her, but you'd have privacy when you needed it. Independence." "And you?" I asked. "Where would you be?" "My rooms are in the East Wing," he replied. "Close enough to be there if you need me, far enough to give you space. Unless..." He paused, his eyes meeting mine. "Unless you wanted something different, something closer." Heat bloomed in my cheeks. "I just met you. Really met you, I mean, not counting the night I don't remember." "I know." His hand came up to cup my face, his touch gentle despite the evidence of violence still visible under his nails. "I'm not asking you to share my bed tonight, Sarah, or even this month. I'm asking you to consider the possibility. To stay here. Let us get to know each other properly and see where it leads." We continued the tour, a professional kitchen where a chef prepared meals, a gym with equipment, and a separate yoga studio, even a home theater. But it was the garden that truly captured my attention. Dante led me through French doors onto a stone terrace overlooking manicured lawns, flower beds, and a fountain that sparkled in the morning sun. "My mother designed this garden," he said quietly, "before she got sick. She said every home needed a heart, and gardens were where the heart lived." I looked at the roses climbing trellises, the careful arrangement of colors and textures, and felt something shift in my chest. This wasn't just wealth on display. This was love, carefully cultivated and maintained even after the person who'd created it was gone. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "She would have liked you," Dante said. "Would have loved Lily. She always said I needed someone who saw past the reputation, past the family name, to the man underneath. Someone who wasn't afraid to challenge me." "I'm terrified of you," I admitted. "Of what you're capable of what you did tonight." "Good," he replied, and there was approval in his voice. "Fear keeps you cautious, keeps you safe, but I need you to understand something, Sarah. That violence, that darkness, it only exists for people who threaten what I love. With you, with Lily, I'm just a man. A man who wants to be a good father, a good partner, a good person in the ways that matter. What if I can't give you what you want?" The question came out small, vulnerable. "What if I can't love you the way you seem to want? What if this is just proximity and protection and gratitude?" Dante's smile was gentle. "Then we'll figure it out together. Maybe you'll never love me romantically. Maybe we'll just be partners raising our daughter. Maybe we'll become friends who respect each other and share a life without passion. I can accept any of those outcomes, Sarah. What I can't accept is you leaving, taking Lily somewhere I can't protect you both, and getting hurt because I wasn't there. That sounds like a pretty one-sided arrangement," I said, trying for levity, despite the emotion clogging my throat. "I'm a selfish man," Dante replied with a slight shrug. "I'll take whatever you're willing to give and consider myself fortunate. Besides," his eyes held mine, intense and unwavering, "I have faith that given time, you'll come to trust me, to care for me.
Maybe even to want me the way I want you. I'm a patient man when the reward is worth it." A cry from inside interrupted us. Lily, awake and demanding attention. Dante immediately turned toward the sound, but I stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Let me," I said, "but come with me." We returned to the medical suite together, and I lifted Lily from her bassinet, settling into the rocking chair to feed her.
Dante pulled up a smaller chair beside us, watching with that same fierce tenderness I was beginning to recognize as uniquely his. "Tell me about your family traditions," I said as Lily nursed. "If I'm going to raise her in your world, I need to understand it." So he told me. About Sunday dinners where the entire extended family gathered, children running through the gardens while adults argued about politics and business over wine. About name days and feast days, celebrations that lasted from dawn to midnight. About the importance of loyalty, of keeping your word, of protecting family above all else. "It's not always easy," he admitted. "There are expectations, rules, ways of doing things that go back generations. But there's also love, support, the knowledge that you're never alone, never without backup. When you're part of this family, you're part of something bigger than yourself." "And Lily?" I asked softly. "What kind of life will she have? Whatever kind she wants," Dante replied firmly. "I won't force her into the business, won't make her carry burdens she doesn't choose. She'll have the best education, the best opportunities, and the freedom to be whoever she wants to be. Artist, doctor, teacher, it doesn't matter. She'll be loved and supported regardless." The conviction in his voice made me believe him. This man who'd killed for us, who'd built a fortress to keep us safe, genuinely wanted nothing more than for his daughter to be happy and free. Over the next few weeks, we settled into a rhythm. My body healed slowly, the surgical site gradually becoming less painful. Lily grew and changed daily, her unfocused newborn gaze sharpening into recognition when she saw our faces. And Dante was there for all of it. He learned to change diapers faster than I could, mastered the art of the swaddle, walked the floors at 3 a.m. when Lily was fussy, singing to her in Italian, old songs his mother had sung to him. He attended every doctor's appointment, asked detailed questions, took notes like he was studying for an exam. And slowly, carefully, we learned each other. I discovered he loved old movies, particularly noir films from the 1940s, that he had a weakness for dark chocolate and good whiskey, that he'd studied literature at university before being pulled fully into the family business, and still read voraciously, novels, poetry, history. He learned that I'd wanted to be a teacher before financial necessity had derailed my education, that I loved thunderstorms and hated the color yellow. that I'd never traveled outside the country but had dreamed of seeing Paris since I was a little girl. "We'll go," he said one evening as we sat in the library, Lily sleeping between us in her carrier. "When she's a bit older, we'll spend a month in Paris. You can see the Louvre, Notre Dame, all of it." "Just like that?" I asked, amused by his casual certainty. "Just like that," he confirmed. "I have property there. A flat near the Luxembourg Gardens. You'd love it." The ease with which he talked about our future, about trips we'd take, things we'd do together, should have felt presumptuous. Instead, it felt nice. Like maybe the future didn't have to be something I faced alone. One night, about 3 weeks after we'd arrived at the estate, Lily was particularly restless. I'd fed her, changed her, checked her temperature, everything I could think of, but she continued to fuss, her small face scrunching up in distress. "Here," Dante said, appearing in the doorway of my bedroom suite. I'd officially moved out of the medical room into the beautiful space he'd shown me that first day. "Let me try." He took Lily and began to walk, a gentle bouncing motion that seemed to soothe her, and then he started singing, not the Italian lullabies he usually favored, but something in English. It took me a moment to recognize it as a song from The Wizard of Oz. "Somewhere Over the Rainbow?" I asked, surprised and charmed. "My mother loved that movie," he said softly, still walking and bouncing. "Used to sing this to me when I couldn't sleep. Said it was about hope, about believing better things were possible even when the world seemed dark." I watched him, this powerful, dangerous man singing a children's song to our fussing baby, and felt something crack open in my chest. Something that had been carefully guarded, carefully protected, suddenly vulnerable and exposed. I was falling for him. The realization should have terrified me. We'd known each other less than a month. Our relationship was born from trauma and necessity, not courtship and choice. But watching him with Lily, remembering all the small kindnesses he'd shown me, the way he'd protected us without asking for anything in return, how could I not fall? Lily finally settled, her eyes drifting closed. Dante carefully placed her in the bassinet, then turned to find me staring at him. "What?" he asked, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Nothing," I said. "Just thank you for everything." He crossed to where I sat on the edge of the bed and knelt in front of me, his hands coming to rest on my knees. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." My heart stuttered. "What?" "That night, 7 months ago, when you came to me in the morning and asked me to help you forget." His dark eyes held mine, intense and honest. "I knew it was wrong, knew you weren't in a place to make clear decisions, but I did it anyway because I wanted you. Because I'd been watching you all night at that gala and wanting you, and when you gave me permission, however impaired that permission was, I took it." He paused, his jaw working. "I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, Sarah. Hurt people who deserved it, and some who probably didn't. But the thing I regret most is taking advantage of you that morning. You deserved better. Deserved someone who would have been strong enough to say no, to get you help instead of giving in to selfish desire." "Dante, let me finish," he interrupted gently. "I can't change what happened, can't give you back your memories or undo the circumstances that brought us together. But I can promise you this, from now on, every choice we make is yours. You want to stay? We stay. You want your own place in the city with Lily? I'll set it up and provide security. You want me in your life as more than just Lily's father? I'm here. But I won't push, won't manipulate or pressure. You get to decide, Sarah. You get to choose." Tears slipped down my cheeks, and I reached up to cup his face. "What if I've already chosen?" Hope flared in his eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that maybe we got here in an unconventional way. Maybe I can't remember our first time together, and maybe the circumstances that brought you into my life were terrible, but..." I took a shaky breath. "But I see who you are now, how you are with Lily, how you've protected us, cared for us, given us everything without demanding anything in return, and I think I'm falling for you, Sarah." My name was a prayer on his lips. His hands came up to frame my face, his thumbs wiping away my tears. "Are you sure? Because once you say this, once you give me this, I'm never letting you go. You understand that? You'll be mine in every way that matters, and I don't share, I don't give up. If you're going to change your mind, Do it now." "I'm not going to change my mind," I whispered. "Kiss me, Dante. Help me make a memory I can actually keep this time." He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away, to change my mind. But I didn't want to. I met him halfway, our lips finally connecting in a kiss that was gentle and careful and absolutely perfect. It started soft, tentative, a question and an answer, but then his hand slid into my hair, tilting my head to deepen the kiss, and heat flooded through me. This was nothing like the distant, perfunctory kisses Marcus had given me. This was consuming, claiming, a promise of passion and protection wrapped together. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against mine. "I've been wanting to do that since I walked into your hospital room. Why didn't you?" "Because you weren't ready. But you are now, aren't you? Ready to be mine?" "Yes," I breathed. "I'm ready." 6 months later, I stood in the garden Dante's mother had designed, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of roses. Lily, now 7 months old and absolutely beautiful, was in Elena's arms, wearing a tiny dress that matched mine. The wedding was small, intimate. Just Dante's immediate family, his uncle Salvatore, various cousins and their children, and the staff who'd become like family over the months I'd lived at the estate. No elaborate ceremony. No hundreds of guests. Just the people who mattered, gathered in a garden to witness us choosing each other. Dante stood at the makeshift altar looking devastating in a black suit, his dark eyes fixed on me as I walked toward him. No one gave me away. I'd walked this path myself, made this choice myself, and that felt right. The ceremony was brief, conducted by a judge who was either very brave or very well compensated to conduct a Moretti wedding without asking questions. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, promises of partnership, protection, and love. When Dante slipped the ring on my finger, I saw his hand shake slightly, the only sign of emotion he allowed himself in front of his family. "I love you," he whispered as we were pronounced husband and wife. "I love you, and I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving you made the right choice." "I know I did," I replied, and kissed him to seal the promise. The reception was everything I'd never known I wanted, loud and warm and full of life. Children ran through the gardens while adults danced and argued good-naturedly over wine and food. Lily was passed from person to person, cooed over and spoiled by what seemed like dozens of relatives who'd instantly claimed her as their own. "Happy?" Dante asked, pulling me close as we danced under the stars. "Incredibly," I admitted, resting my head on his shoulder. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over, thought I'd be alone forever, struggling to raise Lily by myself, and now you have a family, he finished. An overwhelming, loud, intrusive Italian family who will involve themselves in every aspect of your life and drive you crazy with their opinions and advice. I laughed. "I can't wait." Later, after the guests had left and Lily was asleep in her nursery, Dante carried me over the threshold of his bedroom. Our bedroom now. He set me down gently, mindful of the fact that my body was still recovering from pregnancy and surgery, and began to slowly undress me. "I'm going to make love to my wife," he murmured against my neck. "Going to give you memories to replace the ones that were stolen. Is that okay?" "More than okay," I breathed. He was gentle and patient, taking his time to relearn my body, to show me pleasure without rushing or demanding. And when we finally came together, when I felt him moving inside me and looked up to see his face, open and vulnerable and full of love, I understood what I'd been missing in my marriage to Marcus. This was what it felt like to be cherished, protected, loved. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his hand resting possessively on my hip, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For saving me, for loving Lily, for giving me a life I never dreamed was possible. Sarah." He tilted my face up to look at him. "You saved yourself. You survived being drugged, abandoned, and terrorized. You brought our daughter into this world alone and kept her safe. All I did was provide the framework for you to thrive. Don't forget that. We saved each other then," I compromised. "Deal?" "Deal," he agreed and kissed me again. 2 years later, I sat in the same garden, watching Lily chase butterflies on chubby toddler legs, while her baby brother, Antonio, named after Dante's grandfather, napped in the carrier against my chest. I'd finished my teaching degree online, and in the fall, I'd start teaching at a private school in the city. Dante had bought the building and renovated it specifically so I could pursue my dream safely. Life wasn't perfect. There were still threats, still dangers that came with being part of the Moretti family, but Dante had built walls around us, metaphorical and literal, that kept the darkness at bay. And within those walls, we'd created something beautiful. Lily squealed with delight, and I looked up to see Dante striding across the lawn, home from whatever business had taken him to the city. She ran to him on unsteady legs, and he scooped her up, tossing her in the air and catching her while she giggled. "Mama!" she called, pointing at me. "Papa home!" "I see that, baby girl," I called back, smiling. Dante carried her over and sat beside me on the blanket, Lily immediately reaching for her sleeping brother. "Gentle," Dante reminded her. "Baby Tonio is sleeping. Soft," Lily agreed, carefully patting Antonio's head before scrambling off to chase more butterflies. Dante's arm came around my shoulders, pulling me close. "How was your day?" "Perfect," I said honestly. "Absolutely perfect." And it was. Because somehow, through trauma and fear and impossible circumstances, we'd found each other. We'd built a family. We'd created a life filled with love and laughter and hope. I still didn't remember that night 7 months before Lily was born. Maybe I never would. But looking at the life we'd built, at the children we were raising, at the man who'd proven every single day that he loved me, I didn't need to remember. The present was more than enough. The future stretched ahead of us, bright with possibility. And I was exactly where I belonged.